Okay, welcome everybody to the Broadjam with Pulse Records Music Licensing Hangout. This is about the fifth or sixth one we've done. My name is Mike Huberty, and I work in the music licensing and the artist services at Broadjam, and I'm with
Roy Elkins. I'm the CEO and founder of Broadjam.
And so today we're going to be talking to you guys, answering some of your questions, and we do have Richie Rivera from Pulse Records. He's on the line with me right now. We're having a couple of technical difficulties actually getting him into the Hangout, but he's going to be able to answer your questions either in the chat or he can answer through me, and I'll be interpreting. But we'll have a chance to ask the questions of Pulse Records with everybody. We're just working through the whole Google Plus technology thing. Roy, if you want to, real quick, we already have a couple of questions while Richie's jumping in the Hangout. If you to the left, there's a Q&A, and if you hit that Q&A button,
where is it?
It's on the left side of the screen. They'll see a Q+A button, and then we can answer some of the questions that people have already asked.
All right, I don't see it, Mike. Hold on a second here. Let's see.
Okay. The first question somebody asked is, has the broadcast started? I'm not seeing anything. Andrew Manitsky, the broadcast has started, and you are seeing us now. So
is this in the chat area, Mike? Oh, Q&A, I see.
Yeah, so jump in that, and we can see.
Sorry, I'm old and I can't read.
That's all right. We got a question from John Landers and Jim Pfeiffer, and we can jump in there. And
I was just listening to Jim Pfeiffer stuff yesterday. Good stuff.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
What kind of music is it?
I can't hear you. What's that?
What kind of music is it?
He's kind of got a little rock feel, folk to him. You know?
All right, sounds good. Well,
Yeah,
Jim.
sure. You cut out there for a second, Mike.
Okay. Well, starting out, let's take a question from John Landers. Who, I'm sorry. This is the one from Jim Pfeiffer. He says he writes instrumental soundtracks in a variety of styles. Is it better to specialize in one particular style, or be as versatile as you can when promoting yourself to potential opportunities? Roy, why don't you start out with that?
Well, I think the most important thing, Jim, is really to spend your time on what you're good at. I think when we try to write in varieties of styles, we get a little confused about, let me just phrase it this way, I'm sorry. On occasion, we'll get somebody who says, we can write in every style. And the problem with that is nobody has ever done that successfully in the history of the music business. So I really encourage writers to really focus on what you're good at. Now, it doesn't hurt to stretch outside of your genre and try to write something else, because it does make you stronger in the genre that you're really good at. I think that trying to write in too many different styles is just you're just diluting your skill set. Now, on occasion, you might have the opportunity to write in jazz or write, and there's no reason you shouldn't take a shot at it. But I wouldn't have the same expectations that I would if I was really focused on what I'm good at. I hope that answers your question. But so often we have so many people that will submit to a whole bunch of different things that are really outside of their skill set. Not many people can write in multiple genres effectively. They might be able to write in 2 or 3, but you start getting outside of, if you're rock, country, you might be able to write in folk, you might be able to write in maybe a little jazz or blues, but, stretch into classical or rap or some other completely different genre, a hard leap. So I would try to stay focused on what you do and do it well.
I think that's really good advice, Roy. I think number one, people should be thinking about where are you best. Concentrate on your best work and concentrate on the genres that you feel that represent you, things that you feel really comfortable in, because it's very infrequent that you'll see, even look at when Sting when he's branching out to like classical, and he started playing with the lute and things like that from the 14th century. Like that was cool, But do you want to see Sting play that lute, or do you want to see Sting play Message in a Bottle?
Well, same with Billy Joel stuff, and Billy Joel and McCartney,
So.
Where does that noise come from? Huh.
I'm not hearing anything over here, but in good news, so Richie from Pulse Records is with us. And so he is on the Hangout. So, Richie, I know we're having trouble with your microphone, but wave to everybody and say hi. Okay. So thank you. Pulse Records is one of our partners we've been working with, and they've been just getting some excellent successes for our members over the past few months we've been working with them, and so we wanted to bring him in. And even if Richie has trouble with the microphone and stuff like that, that's no problem. We'll get an answer for you if you have a specific question for Pulse Records or anything like that, and we'll make sure we try to include him on the stuff. Speaking of, we do have a question for Pulse Records right here, and and this is a good one too. So let me jump into this question right here, and Richie, I'll give you a chance to answer it, and Roy, if you have anything to say,
Sure.
then of course jump in. So This question is, who picks the reference tracks that accompany the opportunities? Does Pulse do that? And generally speaking, how close in terms of tempo and vibe do you want the submissions to be? It's always a tough call in my mind.
Yeah, it is. That's a good question, Andrew. Very good question.
Yeah, I can hear you, Richie. I'll talk. I'll be the UN interpreter here. So Andrew, in situations where there's a reference, it's not as much about being like tempo as it is an overall style. Sure, that's a great thing. So Richie says the reference there is there as a template, but it's not the definition of what they absolutely need. And so I realize I'm staring into a microphone over here instead of staring at the screen. Sorry, that's my accident. But
I'm kind of doing the same thing.
And I think that's a really good point that Richie made. That like it's just a production quality. It's important. Like if they want something, if your song sounds as good as that, then chances are that'll be what they're looking for. And so Pulse, a lot of the times, the reference tracks that they provide us are actually songs that have been selected in the past and that have made it. Isn't that right? So a lot of times those reference tracks are just a good guide to, hey, this one worked out. Let's see if it'll work out again, and that kind of thing. And I often select some of the reference tracks of our other listings, and a lot of that is because if we heard a song that was like that was that good for production quality, for genre, for attitude and feeling, then that would be the one that would get picked for that particular listing. So thank you, Andrew. That's a good one thing that we try to do is when Pulse gets us successes is we try to show you guys those successes as soon as possible so you know what Broadjam artists are not just capable of, but what they're doing as far as sound quality, as far as attitude, as far as songs that are making that cut and that are being accepted. Anything to add to that, Rich? Right. And I think that's a really good point. So what Richie was saying was that he was saying you should A/B between your song and the songs that were picked, and try to look at why did this song work
Good
and this
advice.
song didn't. And that's something we encourage for almost every one of our our listings. And Roy, isn't there a service that Broadjam offers that might help you do A/Bs and things like that? I don't quite remember.
The pro reviewers? Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, it would be the pro reviewers, wouldn't it?
It would. It's a great service. If you're not sure on the quality of a song, why not just go in and pick somebody who's doing it every day and submit the song directly to them and get direct feedback. It may be the best money that you can spend with us or anybody. You pick the reviewer, you say, like a guy like Jonathan Stone, who's been a publisher, been involved in the industry for 100 years. He's placed music with everybody, and he's just got a knack for picking hit songs. If you're looking for that kind of opportunity, if you're looking for an opportunity in film and TV, then maybe you go through some guy like Doug Beck or Dave Natick or somebody like that who's around it every day, all day long. So I think to get that feedback directly, it may be worth the extra few dollars rather than just trying to guess where your song belongs. Well, a song might be really good for the charts. It's possible it doesn't work in film or TV, and vice versa. So that may be the place to go.
And specifically, we'll be bringing on Pulse Records as a pro reviewer in the next week or so that if you're wondering, hey, would this song work or something like that, maybe get that feedback right from the source. And that'll be available, and we'll, of course, send an email as soon as it is. So thank you very much, Andrew. Let's jump to the next question.
What do we have? We have about 40 pro reviewers? Is that what we have now?
Yeah, we're in the. I think the last time I counted, it was in the high 30s.
Okay.
So, but
I'll look at them right now as we're
come
talking.
in and out depending on their availability. Like a lot of these guys they work in the industry, and so they have lean and fat times like anything. So the lean in times they jump in. They have more times when they're on tour. They can't do the pro reviews.
Right.
Okay, this is a more general music industry question. We'll see everybody can get some feedback on here. This is from Oscar Oseguera. I apologize if I butchered your name. I do that sometimes, but at least I gave it a try. In terms of royalty distribution, what forms of payment would you recommend for the indie artist to accept? We'll start with you, Roy, and then we'll go to Richie.
It's a good question, Oscar. I think the answer might be how far along on the track are you? If you're trying to just get a couple placements here and there, you might want to expect that there's no money up front. A lot of the non-network shows don't really pay any money up front, but you can generate some pretty good royalties if you get in the right show on the back end. But if you're going to place a song in a network show, you're probably going to get some compensation. Obviously, the more successful writers that have worked with music supervisors for a long time and have had some success with them might get a little more money up front. But I would, it just depends on where you are in the process. If you've had 100 placements, you can probably demand a little more money. However, these shows do have budgets, and that might cut you out of a check as well if you are looking for a little more.
Okay. Thank you, Roy. Now, everybody, we know, I'm sorry that we can't get audio from Richie, but we're going to ask him the same question, and I'll translate for him. So, Richie, what do you think? And now, Pulse Records, right, you guys are specifically, you do not take any kind of share of the publishing or the sync fee. So what's your opinion on that? Okay, that's a great point, Richie. So he was the first thing he said was, number one, that they don't interfere with the artist's compensation. So
Yeah.
that's one of the cool things about Pulse Records. It's a little different than a lot of different, So Broadjam has all kinds of different opportunities for artists, and this is the kind where, you get everything. I mean, Pulse Records makes the money in the front end instead of the back end, and that's, it's very straightforward as it gets. And number two, he's like, if you're just starting out, sometimes it's okay just to worry about the exposure. Worry about getting into professional situations and your music into pro situations. And also make sure you're registered with a performance rights organization. That's really important, that you guys are registered with ASCAP, BMI, CSAC if you're invited, or if you're over whatever kind of foreign organizations they have. Just make sure you're registered so you get your royalties. Was I on the right track with you, Richie? Sure. So Paul says he talks about them. They're the connective tissue. That when it's time for compensation, that's between you and your publisher and the the performance rights organization and the TV show or the director and stuff like that, and not Pulse Records. And that's one thing that specializes them. They take it on the front end and they keep themselves like that. So that's a cool differentiator of that particular company. Thank you, Oscar. We appreciate the question.
Great question, Oscar.
Now let's jump in. We have a question from Peter Olak. Peter is a good Broadjam member. He's been a member for a long time.
Long time. Hey, Peter.
And he says, if what I produce as a writer, composer, singer, and/or musician has value for a submission, why pay up front if there's money to be paid to all successful parties involved?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, that in many cases, Broadjam has no interest in the publishing. Some cases we do. It just really depends on what our deal is on the other end as well. But the point is that when you look at the value of services like ours versus, there's a lot of other great services out there similar to ours, and if you compare that to hiring a song plugger in Nashville, which may charge you anywhere from $250 a month to $1,000 a month for one song, or hiring somebody in LA to pitch your music, or to give up your publishing on the back end of a $10,000 deal, you end up paying a lot more on the back end than you would on the front end. So and you don't have to either. One of the things we have said all along, if you have the connections and you can place the music on your own, you shouldn't use services like Broadjam. But with that said, somebody is going to get paid along the way, whether it's a publisher you sign with who's splitting the revenue, whether it's an agent, whether it's a manager, or whoever it is, somebody else is going to get paid along the way. And in cases like us with our company and our competitors, the fees are pretty minimal up front. Hope that answers the question.
I think that's a great answer, Roy. And and I'd just like to add that, as somebody that used to put CDs in manila envelopes and send them out to 100 different addresses for music licensing tip sheets, and somebody that's used services like Broadjam in the past for my own music, I can say that this is a way better option than that. But somebody along the way is going to get paid, and if it's going to be your landlord in New York City at $1,500 a month for a 300 square foot apartment, or it's going to be that plane trip to Nashville or Los Angeles, and the hotel and the money involved in the connection and networking. You got to network. You got to get your music to people some way, shape, or form. And Broadjam is one of those avenues to do it. And then, in order to, in order to keep the lights on, everybody's just got to make sure that you have to pay the post office kind of deal thing. So it's just connective tissue. And Richie, what do you think about that? I guess this is kind of a justify your existence question. Okay, you gotta stop every few seconds so I can get the language out. Okay. Okay, that's a good start. So Richie was saying that your music career is an investment. Whether you're buying guitar strings or taking voice lessons or buying a Pro Tools rig, then you are investing in your music as a career. Okay, sorry. Keep. So Pulse Records connects very high-level opportunities with independent artists that chances are wouldn't be able to get on their own. Sure. So since Pulse doesn't take any back end, and they're a particular company that just offers the connection and doesn't take any of the publishing or any of the sync fee after that, they operate only on a submission-based platform. Okay. Right. And so what he's saying right there is, if you take an example of a band like Breaking Southwest, who was an artist that they found on Broadjam, they spent $20 on that submission, and in return, when they got selected and they got picked up, their video is now being played in retail stores across the United States, including Costco. And I just got a Costco membership, so I'm gonna go there and make sure I see the video. I do. I did just get a Costco membership, actually. That just means I'm getting old. Okay, keep going, Richie. I'm sorry.
You're not that old.
Sure. So the same kind of service from an independent video promoter could be anywhere from 25 to 7,500 with no guarantee of anything. So that. Right. So for $20 they got something worth thousands of dollars, and they did it through having great music and then having the foresight to invest in their career. And anything to add there, Rich? You think I kind of did I interpret well enough? Okay. that's a really good point. The opportunity is, and so Richie was saying the opportunity is there if the quality of music is there. And a lot of times a submission fee will help weed out some people who either don't believe in the music enough, or they weed out people who would just do it as kind of like a joke. And the thing is, working in the submission business, we don't always have time for that. And that's something we often hear is sometimes people will send things in that aren't particularly appropriate for a listing. And they'll do that, on a lot of the free ones. Go ahead, Roy.
Yeah, and I think another thing along those lines too is that we compensate the folks on the other end to listen to everything submitted. So those submission fees pay the folks on the other end who are making the decisions to listen to everything. And it's not only about the splits on the back end, but it's making sure that you're getting heard. And so when we first started in this, we had several free listings, and we would get 2,000 submissions and 5,000 submissions. So any place there's a free listing, I guarantee you 99% of the songs submitted will never be heard by anybody. Going through some, I'm sure Richie can attest to this, but going through and listening to some of the listings myself over the years, you know how hard it is to listen to 200 songs and stay focused? It's not an easy. Now, you only have to listen to 20 or 30 seconds of a song to know if the guitars are in tune. Can the singer sing? Is this the right artistic vibe for what I'm looking for if I'm a music supervisor? But at least that money guarantees that process will take place. When there's free submissions, there are thousands of people who will submit inappropriate music to listening just to get heard. So it is a barrier. I wish we could offer free submissions all the time, but we got to make sure that there's an opportunity for everybody submitting.
I think that's a good way to put it, Roy. And I just heard this from one of my Facebook friends today, who was running a free submission on a site, and he was saying like 2,500 songs. Maybe I'll get through this by next February. Or he said straight up said that in his Facebook status, and I'm like, I don't want to submit to you, right? Because you're just complaining about seeing 20, and I get it absolutely. As someone who listens to a lot of music and participates, I do completely understand. But I'd rather pay a guy to do it who's going to listen and is going to be happy to listen to it than not pay a guy who's going to be bitter about it.
But I understand PGO's question. I mean, it's a good, legitimate question.
Sure. Oh, sure.
And what I would do is I would just set a budget, whether it's with Broadjam or any of the other services out there. I would just have a budget and say I'm gonna, like any other marketing event for any business. Broadjam has a marketing budget. My previous companies had marketing budget.
Wait, hold on. What's the marketing budget, Ryan? We gotta come on.
I didn't say it was very big, Mike. I just said we have.
Okay, fair enough.
That lunch we buy all the employees on Friday? No, but the point is that every company, every product has a promotional budget attached to it. That's what I would do. I would just say I'm going to spend X amount of dollars per year, whatever I could afford, and that's what I'm going to do to promote my music. And if I can't afford anything, then I might look at sites like YouTube and some of the sites where I can get videos and music to be played and heard for free. Then I might explore that route. But if I want to get placed in film and TV, the fastest way is through a plugger or a company like Pulse or Broadjam or somebody like what we do for a living. That's the fastest way.
I think that's a really great insight, Roy. And plus that marketing your music is a business, and just like any business, when Coca-Cola puts ads on or Geico, creates YouTube videos with that stupid lizard. There's a budget for that, and they are promoting their business, and this is part of your budget in promoting your music. I think
One other point too, Mike, is that I just want to make there. And let me just toot our horn for a second. Unlike just every competitor we have, 98% of our members are free members. 9 out of 10 services we have, maybe 95 out of 100 features on our site are free. We don't charge for them at all.
oh yeah.
And so, I mean, we have what we believe is one of the biggest and best social networks for musicians. We don't charge for that. And you won't find the same type of camaraderie on a Facebook or on a LinkedIn or anything like that, like you find here among musicians. We don't charge for so many different things, and so we're pretty comfortable with the fees that we charge and where we charge them, because our average member pays us a little over $5 a year. And so we're pretty comfortable that we're trying to be as fair and upfront as we can, with the fees that we charge.
Yeah, well, I mean, and not just that. Like I always recommend, I write this in the newsletter all the time. Is I say, jump into the peer reviews. Like if you're looking to get feedback on your music from other musicians and from other people as quickly as possible, we have a free way to do that right away. And that's the more reviews you write, the more times other people will hear your songs and write a review of it. Yeah. And so that's the next best thing to going out in the street with a boombox.
Yeah.
So that's.
Have you done that, by the way?
Of course, I've done that with a guitar. I've done that with a boombox. I've done that.
I believe that. I know you.
I've done that just me and a tambourine to try to get people to come to a show. You bet I've done that. I've also used peer reviews on Broadjam for the exact same thing. I wanted people to hear a song and give me some feedback on it, whether it's good or not. And so I've listened to a ton of songs, and then I got a bunch of reviews. And that's just, it cost me $0, but it cost me a bunch of time. But I made some friends out of it, so it was totally worth it. So that's something that I would do right away. Thank you for that question, PG. I think it's valuable. Let's try to get another question for Richie here before he's got to run. And I know this is awkward, everybody. Thank you for working through it with us. We appreciate your questions, and we just wanted to make sure that you had a chance to ask some questions from one of our very popular new providers that is sending in some really great opportunities, including a great one for a French commercial today, and I always get excited because it's like American music in European. Nobody else has any kind of European ads or anything like that, and so being able to help and provide that is really exciting for us. Okay, let me jump through and look for other questions. This one is from Christian Reindel, and we can start with you, Richie. He says, "Hey guys, I'd like to know roughly how many submissions you receive. I'm pretty sure it's varying, but just an average number per listing." So average number of songs and submissions per listing. Richie, what do you think you get? Sure. So that's a good way. So Richie said like it's usually between 30 and 50 is the average of what they're getting for submissions. And I think I like to hear that, because that means that if you got a really good song, that's a 2% chance. If there's 50 people, there's a 2% chance of getting selected. If you got a really good song, it's probably a 20% chance of getting selected. And so that's really good. So thank you for being 30 to 50. I mean that's a good start. And I would say, as somebody, I see all of the Broadjam licensing opportunities, and I mean a lot of it varies. I mean, because some things are way open and some things are very narrow. But I mean, you're going to see if somebody just says they want a ballad or love song, there'll be a couple hundred songs in there. And if somebody says they want Russian folk music, there's going to be 6. And just like, I mean, I love Russian folk music. What, are you kidding me? But if you said that, it's just like anything. If you're gonna compete, it depends how big your field is. If you're competing against a niche and you can own that niche, well, that's one thing, that much better chance. If you're competing against, female country singers between the ages of 15 and 25, well, get a chin strap on that cowboy hat, because you're going to be working for a long time. And there's just a lot of different competition. Roy, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I think probably the answer, we probably get 50 to 100 on average. The Russian folk songs, anything that's outside of pop, country, rock, the mainstream genres, we're going to get 10 or 20 submissions, which is good for the people that are submitting, because their odds are a little better. Maybe for the person on the other end would like to see more songs and have more opportunity, or more songs to pick from. But I would say it's somewhere between 50 and 100 on average, maybe a little closer to 100. Who knows? But the most important thing is when you are submitting, submit your best material. I always encourage people not to say, well, let me just try that. If you're not 100% sure this song is nailing it for this listing, then don't submit it. You got to be 100% confident that what you send to us or anybody else is the right thing. Now, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes you gamble a little. I understand that, but don't make that a regular habit. If you got a folk song, submit it to folk. If you got a rock song, submit it to rock. Be very confident in what you're doing here.
And I think that's very valuable advice, Roy. And one thing people should listen, and I think one thing we all should listen, like as a way of living, is that don't send in something you have an excuse for. Send in something that you really believe in, and then you'll feel much more confident about it. You'll feel good about it. But if you have to put in the comments like, I was feeling gassy that day, then don't, maybe rethink it, or go redo that vocal until you're 100% proud of it. And that really, I think, giving people the absolute best you can 100% of the time is not only good for your music career, it's going to make you feel better about the whole process. Thank you, Christian, for that. I know Richie's got to go in just 1 minute. We have one Pulse Records. Okay. Oh, okay, he's going to jump in a little more. Okay, sorry, Rich. Go ahead. So what he was saying is, like, number one, make sure you read the briefs and don't just look if there's a $sign attached to it.
Right. Right.
Make sure you're reading through, and that what you send is appropriate for that opportunity.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. So what he was saying there is that, okay, they often get comments when people send in submissions that, hey, if you like this song, I can get it professionally done, or I can get a remix or something like that in a couple of days. And then that doesn't work for two reasons. Number one, it doesn't work because they can't pitch something that's not ready. So they can't, they need to pitch something that's awesome. And I think a lot of that has to do probably, that's people's time in the music industry is so limited, and everybody, wants a piece. And also, that's your trust factor. When you gain relationships by pitching music to people, that is awesome. And then number two, he said that timing is everything. They need that song when they need that song, and a couple of days and finding a singer and doing it. That's not going to work. So did I get that across right? I want to make sure I represent you as best as I possibly can, Richie. Okay, good. Thank you. I'm doing my best. And so, okay, somebody had a question real quick. If our tracks have been heard and not selected, does Pulse keep the tracks on file for other opportunities, or does it go down the drain? Okay, so one thing Pulse Records does is, yes, they do keep everything on file, number one. And number two, they will cross pitch. So if they hear something that they think is going to be a great opportunity, I mean, great for a different opportunity, they will submit it for that one, even if you submit it to one. So a lot of times when you submit the Pulse, then the listings are a guideline, but you're keeping in mind the gestalt, the entire picture when you're doing a listen. Okay. So hope that answers your question, Cindy. And then let's see if we have any. Okay, another question from Peter, and I think this is a good one. What rules in the world of submissions? Is it instruments or lyrics? Is it 15 seconds versus 30, 45, or 90? So I think what seems to, maybe if I interpret the question correctly, what seems to have a higher percentage of success, instrumentals or songs, and shorter songs or cues versus full pieces? Rich, why don't you start with that? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's okay. So for them, it's all about the brief. So make sure you read the brief, and if it says, and I've heard this before too, if it says instrumentals, don't send lyrics. If it says no instrumentals, don't send instrumentals. Number one. Number two, the second point was, oh yeah, everything's got to be top shelf, pro. So you want to make sure that what you send is major, it's broadcast quality. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so what Richie said on that one is a lot of times they prefer real songs because an editor working on a project can always reduce that real song to the bits, maybe the intro, the outro, maybe the an instrumental break, or maybe just a chorus, but they can't add anything to it. There's nothing you can do that will add. The editor can't jump in and add a bridge. If he was looking, he's like, hey, check this out. This should totally be, I know the harmonic minor. That's not going to happen. Roy, any thoughts from the top on this one?
Yeah, I think that, when you talk about cues, probably sites like ours aren't going to offer many cues. Because generally, and Richie might be able to correct me on this if I'm wrong, generally music supervisors will have their go-to people to create cues. And once a cue, a set of cues are created, like, Seinfeld, you got those bass cues going in and out of every commercial, and they're not going to change those over time. Now, they might over time, slightly, but they're not changing dramatically. So once the style of cue is established for a show, it's probably going to be there for a long, long time. So you won't see that many opportunities. Now, with that said, we've actually thought about going down that path a little, but it's probably a little too premature to talk about. But correct me if I'm wrong there, Richie. But that's how I see it from my perch here.
Okay, Richie concurs. I think is that okay. All right. Well, I think we got a. Oh, okay. And this is somebody here asking the question. This was a ridiculous. This was a ridiculous opportunity we got last week. Somebody was looking for songs about flatulence. That was a real opportunity, and Jay Drums added in, and he said, speaking of feeling gassy, how many songs submitted on the fart song opportunity? And there was 6 submitted on that particular opportunity. And I have no idea how it went. I know that the music supervisor was listening to it, and I know he needed something soon. And I think it was for like a web series kind of thing, and I really hope that the Broadjam artist is selected and it makes it through, because I'd love to write that email of how proud we are.
I'm not sure we want that one.
Do we want that? It paid money. Like there was $1.
We want to tout that if we get it. I mean, we want to get it for the writer, clearly, but I'm not sure that that's something we're going to brag about.
But the fact that... Oh, what were you going to say, Rich? Yes, exactly. Richie said he'd hate to be the guy that doesn't get picked, because that means somebody else is far better than yours. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, J Drums. And J Drums is our current Song of the Month winner. So J Drums, congratulations to you on a really great R&B song of the month from that, and you can check that out in the archives. And I know we're running out of time here, so let's check. Okay, well, thank you very much, Richie. We appreciate your time. We'll try this again sometime. Maybe we can get all the audio working and stuff, but thank you for being patient. What you do for Broadjam members, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great day. We'll talk to you again. Bye.
No, now we can talk about him when he goes, Mike.
That's right. That's the plan. Oh, okay. So, but we can take a couple more questions from everybody for a few more minutes. And we did get, Don Tucker, a lot of my songwriting friends are curious as to when the next round of the six-pack contest will happen, or just a general idea. Thanks. Now, don't we have some, we're about to announce that, Roy, or what do you think?
The next round.
I think we know what he means by the next round.
Oh, when we narrow it down to the top 40? Is that what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what the dates are. Whatever the dates are on it. Hold on a second. I got the site up right in front of me. I'll see what we. I think that's what he's asking.
Yes, he's probably. I believe he's talking about the finals that we've had over the past few years.
Don Tucker. Oh, yes. One of the best songwriters on the planet.
Fantastic. I listened to one of his tracks today.
Yeah. Plus a wonderful story. If you go to royelkins.org, there's a nice story about Don there about just his life, and it's really an inspiring story. So if you get anybody listening, get a chance, go there and read it. It's a blog I write called About Great People, and he's certainly one of them. All right, let me look at the six-pack rules and see what the dates are here.
I mean, the good news is we are going to do finals this year. So we're going to have, we're going to have some extra prizes for everybody that are going to be absolutely awesome. And it's a great, we already have some very good sponsors on board. But, whoever is going to be the best songwriter is going to be extraordinarily happy with what they get, I think.
I'm looking for it, Mike, and I'm not sure. Antho, can you look up and see when we announce the top 40? Oh, we haven't set a date yet. Oh, that's why I can't find it. We haven't set a date yet.
Okay. We knew we were going to do it in November. We just had to decide for what day of the week and stuff like that. That's something we'll get in the next week or so, Don.
Yeah, we'll get that soon. But it's usually around the first or second week of November, Don.
Yep. And so and that's why we have that extra of people entering the six-pack now, and the prices went up to 10 to submit and enter and everything like that last week to kind of up the ante. And also all the people who've been doing it for the past 2 months, we want to reward them for getting in early and getting in often. So yes, that is coming up in just the next couple of weeks, Don, and better believe it, it's going to be exciting. And it's always fun when we get to the end. I always love when we get to the end, because then you get to hear some awesome songs, and that makes it worth it.
Yeah, and by the way, the guy who won last year, Will Hopkins, is just an awesome songwriter. If you get a chance, listen to some of his stuff. That's one. He's a quality songwriter.
Yes, I completely agree. Yeah. I completely agree. All right. Well, I think we covered a lot of people's questions today, and hopefully got some of the Pulse stuff that people were looking for. Of course, J Drums busted in again, saying hey, how about some free subs for all in attendance? You know, that might maybe not today because we didn't set it up or anything like that. But I do think a perfect attendance scorecard or something like that, if the people attend the Hangouts or something like that, that might, more than one, that might be a good idea. Just to reward people for asking questions and stay engaged. And also because these questions and the things we do here, I mean, since it's on YouTube and since I'll put this in the newsletter tomorrow, this is valuable for all the members on the site. And we know that because it's like, oh, I watched the Hangout and then I learned something, and that's the important thing, because if it gets you better, if it just teaches you a little bit about how to use Broadjam better or how to network better with some other musicians or even anything about songwriting, then I think we've accomplished something. And hey, if I did something good with my day, that's usually better than something than I could have done.
And I want to thank everybody for being on. I'm going to go listen to J Drum's music. I haven't heard his stuff. Are you familiar? You said he won the Song of the Month contest?
Yes, absolutely, he won the song. He's got a variety of music.
And I see Cindy's on here from Fat IQ, and there's a lot of good writers. PGO obviously, and Oscar and
Don.
Yeah, and Jim. Yeah. Anyway, well let's. When's the next one, Mike? Do you have it scheduled?
Oh, okay. Well, we haven't decided on it yet because usually sometimes I check in the newsletter to see what day of the week. So whatever, I'll send out, say like, hey, what day of the week is best for everybody, and then, but we'll do that again in 2 weeks, and then we'll pick what day of the week then, as soon as, because I like it when people come back and like, I can watch on Tuesday or I can watch on Wednesday, and whatever one wins, that's when we do it on. Yeah. So I know that PGO had one more question that I thought we could.
Oh, okay, sure.
Thought would be. And we did get an offer from somebody who wants to help out with the next Hangout. And yes, send me an email at mike@broadjam.com, and we'd love to have more participation, and maybe people can ask you questions about your management company and stuff and your indie music series. That sounds neat. But let me just, okay, I thought this was kind of a good one. Is there a rule we might follow as to how much income we put behind our pursuits? We were talking before about the marketing budget for indie musicians, and it's like that's like a marketing budget for any company. And I think, is there a particular rule? And Roy, you usually have something about this because you usually say artists pay $10,000 to make a record. To make a record. That's right, everybody. I can't believe that, to make an LP and press it on plastic. No, you know what I mean. $10,000 to make a recording. And then how much money do they spend on actually promoting it?
That's a good question, Peter. When we talk about this a lot in a lot of the the lectures and the panels that I participate in. And when we think about it, we spend $5 or $10 grand to make a record. But when you look at what does a typical record company spend, if a record company usually spends about 10 times the amount. About 9 times the amount to make a record, then to promote a record, than they do to make it. So if they're going to put $100,000 into a project, 10,000 of it's going to make the record, 90,000 to promote it. So when we look at the internet, we say, boy, this has really leveled the playing field. It really hasn't from a marketing perspective. Certainly we can put our music on the internet, but we still have to promote it, because it's not if you build it or if you write it, they will come. We still have to figure out how to promote it. And I don't know that, I think for each individual that the answer is different. I know that if I was doing it, I'd probably spend $50 or $100 a month if I could afford it, and see where that gets me. And, see at the end of the year, okay, I've spent somewhere between $500 and $1,000 to promote my music career. What did it get me? Well, if it didn't get you where you wanted to go, then you got to do one of two things. You got to say, well, I got to adjust the amount I'm spending, or I got to see what were my expectations in line with what I've spent. And when I talk about, those, what are the expectations? If you're going to submit to film and TV, then you should know what the top 20 shows are. You should know what kind of music they're using in those shows. If you're trying to get a song on a record, then you should know what the top 20 or 30 songs are. Or if you're trying to place a song in Nashville, what are the top 20 or 30 country songs? that are hot right now, because that's what's being signed. Anybody who's not in those top 20 or 30 is trying to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is that when you think about that when you're submitting or when you're marketing your music to anybody, make sure that the destination is the appropriate destination and your expectations are in line. Country doesn't get placed a lot in film and TV, except maybe in the show Nashville. But there's just not a lot in network TV of country music. It's usually all rock or hip-hop without lyrics, or something maybe a little more orchestral if you're going into commercial or out of commercial in a football game or something like that. But make sure you understand and you're listening to what is being picked and selected, not just on the Broadjam site, but actually watch the shows. NCIS is one of the hottest shows ever. Watch that show, and that's probably a model for another 20 or 30 shows. You look at Bones, very similar music. Lots of very similar music in all those crime dramas. So my point is, just make sure your expectations are in line with the money you're spending, because you have to get used to being told no, and I think we all know that. You're going to be told no a whole lot more than you're told yes. Just understand that going into it.
And I would add to that, and I've done things like Facebook ads to try to get people to events. Before I was with Broadjam, I submitted to Broadjam opportunities when I wanted to get in front of music supervisors. And think about where you want your music. If it's going to be a rule of how much you spend, think about how much you're willing to. Let's say you're writing a country song, and we're talking about Jonathan Stone as a pro reviewer, and you'd like to know, you work out the demo, and then you're like, okay, I want to check on some of the things on the chorus and the bridge. Is it big enough? I want some ideas for, should we put a piano part in it? Should I put a harp in? I don't know if you put harps in songs, but you know what I mean. So the idea is that, for however much it is to send to John Stone, a major publisher, these questions, like, get them early on in the process, and then you could be saving a lot of money in the future by getting one of these pro reviewers involved in your process early. If you send them a package in the mail, you send them an email, they're not going to respond to it. But this is a way for $100 or $75 or whatever to get feedback from somebody who will go through it with you, who will answer a question for you about your demo before you even record it. And I can't imagine, you want to fly to LA and do that, that's going to be, $1,500. You want to, are you going to go to Nashville for this? But you can get this, and I think I see a lot of people using the pro review service as a validation. They're like, do you think this song is good? Sure. But where the real value could come from is, how can these people who've got an ear for hits help turn your good demo into an awesome finished product? And so, how much does that cost? Well, add an extra $100 to the cost of each song recording. If it costs you, think maybe $500 to record a song, add $100 for getting that feedback before you do the finished product, and I think you'll see a difference, and I think you'll see a lot of value.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. I know Peter is, a very active member of our site, so this really isn't directed at him as much, but for the newer members of the site and the younger members out there, $50 or $100 is a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money to spend every month. So one of the things that we've had on Broadjam almost since day one is a review mechanism. There are a ton of great musicians on this site, like Peter Olick and like some of the other ones who have participated today. You can get feedback on your songs right from people who are very, very good, and there are many people who are actually sideline as supervisors who are members of our site too, and that are in the music industry. So put your music out there in the review mechanism, but know that review mechanism is blind, and they don't know who they're listening to. So you're going to get feedback from everything that this is the greatest thing I've ever heard to it sucks. And now most of our reviewers are a little more detailed than that, but you will figure out a way. You will figure out a way to make the music a little better based on this feedback. because a lot of times what we hear in our own songs, no one else will ever hear. What I think the strength of one of my songs is, somebody else will say that's the weakest point. You know, here's what I really like about this song, and it surprises me. And getting that unbiased feedback is probably the best thing about the review mechanism on Broadjam, because there's no holds barred there. So start there and get feedback, and then decide where you're going to go with that song.
I think that's a good way to put it, and that's a good point to end on it too, because it's something that you can jump in and you can do tonight. You know, really, you can just go upload a song and start reviewing songs, and you can have a song reviewed for you, by the end of the day. So give it a shot and let us know. And if you have any questions about it, you can email me, Mike@broadjam.com. You can email the big guy, Roy@broadjam.com. It doesn't have to go. I mean, it will go through our secretaries, of course. But then once we get that, once we approve that, we will answer it.
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of me, send it to Mike@broadjam.com. You can reach me at Roy@broadjam.com, and anytime.
And I see we have a few more questions, but we'll get to those next time, guys. We'll do this again in a couple of weeks. Thanks to Richie from Pulse Records. They've got a bunch of great opportunities and listings, and he's got a list for me. He just sent it yesterday of all the artists that they've pitched so far from Broadjam, and it's a nice big list. So we've seen a lot of people who are making the cut. Maybe not all. Some of them are making it to the into the shows and into the placements and stuff, but other people are good enough to be pitched, and that's what's exciting to us, because it means that your music's written, maybe not this opportunity, but it will be for the next one. So thanks, everybody, and for watching, and we'll see you soon.
Bye, everybody.